Beach Road, Panama City Beach offers full-service kitchen and bathroom cabinetry, countertops, and flooring. Plus, they also offer cash and carry. Take your cabinets home today. All-in-one vanities on sale. Cabinet, countertop, trim, and faucet included. The more you buy, the more you save. Must take standard sizes in Shaker White. Call Kitchen Designs Group, 850-775-4150, or visit their website, kitchendesignsgroup.com. Cash and carry only applies to Shaker White.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
It's a great time of year to eat healthy. So what's on your dinner plate tonight? Hi, Doug Chamberlain with the Samaritan Ministries Family Health Checkup. This time of year, it's a great time to eat healthier because of all the fresh fruits and veggies that are in your grocer's produce section or even in your own garden. It's also good for your budget when it comes to meal planning because, first of all, they're versatile and can be used in so many ways to stretch meals. And since they're in season, they'll be cheaper, so you can buy more, prepare them in meals, and freeze the meals for later. But try this. Plan your meals around the fruits and veggies instead of the meat, since a lot of them already have protein, and then add meat or other foods as a bonus. You'll actually be consuming more nutrients that your body needs, you'll save money, and you'll be healthier as a result. For more, visit us on Facebook or at familyhealthcheckup.org.
John Sadak here from Westwood One with an invitation to join me and Ryan Harris for an AFC battle from the Mile High City Sunday night. Sean Payton's Denver Broncos are 7-7 following last week's loss to the Lions, but are still in the postseason conversation. Can they get back on the winning track against the New England Patriots? Join us to find out on Sunday Night Football.
Coverage starts at 6:30 right here on your home for the NFL on the Gulf Coast, ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Your home to the NFL. WGSX Lynn Haven. WVLQ Port St. Joe. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Are you ready?
Okay, let's begin.
Drip. The Afternoon Underdog Drip. Live and local. Inside the doghouse.
Unleash the dragon.
I'm the Sports Talk Monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
What's going on, Northwest Florida? You are now tuned in to the Afternoon Underdogs, listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher on a beautiful Friday afternoon, December 22nd in the year of our Lord 2023. Got a lot of high school. Well, actually, we don't have a lot of high school going on right now. Kind of in that tournament season for basketball. A few select soccer games going on, and one notable not necessarily a firing, but a mutual agreement over there with the Arnold football coach. Again, you guys can give us a call or text today at 850-215-6290. We should be having the Real Fishing Report with Tim Braddock at 4:20 today. And then at 4:40, we're going to be joined by the Gulf Coast State College men's basketball coach Phil Gaffney. And at 5 o'clock, we will wrap this afternoon up with Derek Tate. We'll be riding until about 5:30, 5:28 this afternoon. And then we'll get you to the coverage for Georgia Tech and UCF. That should be a pretty good bowl game. I think we have a couple of those tonight, but coverage will start for that game right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. We're also streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Like and share the Facebook feed and page, and follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel all at ESPN Northwest Florida. You can also download the app and register on your Apple Store or your Google Play Store, all at 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. In our local news, I don't think we have any scores from last night. We have some high school basketball this evening. Walton is 5-2. They'll be hosting Destin, who is 5-3. That game will tip at 5:30. Niceville host Williamson. Williamson is 9-3. Niceville 4-6. They will tip that game in 28 minutes at 4:30. Ponce de Leon comes in with a record of 6-5. Chipley is 3-4. They will tip that game tonight at 7 p.m. Rutherford is 6-4. They'll be hosting Wakulla, who is 5-3. That game will tip tonight at 7 p.m. Franklin County is 6-5. Bozeman is 10-1. Bozeman travels to Franklin County, and that game will tip tonight at 8 p.m. In boys soccer, Bay is 7-3-2. They will visit North Bay Haven, who is 12-1, and that game just started 2 minutes ago at 4 p.m. And then in girls high school basketball this evening, Arnold is 4-5. They're going to be hosting Monroe, who is 3-4. That'll be at 5 p.m. Bozeman is 3-6. They travel to Franklin County at 7-4, and that game will tip tonight at 6:30. And Bay travels to Choctaw. Bay hosts a record of 4-7. Choctaw 6-2. That game tips off tonight at 7 p.m. and then North Bay Haven was hosting Bay in girls soccer, and we will get an update on the score there. Got to give a couple of happy birthday shout-outs. One to my brother Alex. Happy birthday, brother. 31 years old. And then also a former member here of our staff at ESPN Northwest Florida, Miss Kathy Palmer, who is a beautiful 57 years old this afternoon. I know for a fact she's not listening, but happy birthday to Kathy. She's not 57. She's not 57 either, but she told me she's doing a little rearranging of her numbers.
She was there for the Summer of Love in 1969. I'll put it that way.
Nice. I know that she enjoys her bike rides and taking great pictures and enjoying her retirement. Shout out and a happy birthday to Kathy. Arnold High School head football coach Sean Campbell has stepped down from his position after 3 seasons with the program. The athletic director for Arnold, Rick Green, said that Campbell informed Principal Britt Smith of his decision to leave the program and to look for opportunities elsewhere. Campbell was named the Marlins head coach in January of 2021. He was the interim head coach in the 2020 season after his predecessor, Norris Bond, resigned for health reasons. Rick Green said that the school is immediately going to begin a nationwide search for Campbell's replacement with a goal to have a new coach in place before the spring season. FSU challenging the grant of rights, and there is a lot on that. The Florida State Board of Trustees voted unanimously to sue the ACC to challenge the legality of the league's grant of rights and its $130 million withdrawal fee, which is the necessary first step for the school's future and potential exit from the conference. They filed a 38-page lawsuit, and that was filed over there in Tallahassee. They're seeking a declaratory judgment against the ACC to void the grant of rights and withdrawal fee. Have you seen what the withdrawal fee is going to be?
300 some million?
Add a couple 100 million to that.
Oh, like $500 million, huh?
Yeah, it's over $500 million. The university alleges chronic fiduciary mismanagement and bad faith. You can tell I don't deal with a lot of money. In the way that the ACC has handled its multimedia rights agreements and undermined its members' revenue opportunities. FSU is also accusing the ACC of breach of contract and failure to perform. At issue in Florida State's, this is an article from ESPN, by the way, at issue in Florida State's complaint is what the school has described over the past year as not only growing revenue gaps with the SEC and Big Ten, which is expected to be $30 million annually per school, but disagreements over the way that media rights money should be distributed within the ACC. Although the ACC recently adopted success initiatives to reward teams for performance in football, men's and women's basketball, FSU has pushed for television money to be distributed unevenly based on media value to the conference, and the ACC has refused. How do you feel about that piece right there? Do you think that Florida State and Clemson and the guys who bring more eyes to the conference should be making more because they're bringing more eyes to the table? I mean, in the world of the NIL, that would make a ton of sense. How do you feel, Caveman Rick?
It's not the way the deal's originally made out to be. It's not the normal way they've been doing business and conducting themselves all this time. Now I can understand where they're trying to make a point and a talking point, but everything's cyclical. You know, there's going to be times when you're not at the top, you know, and there was times like that in the ACC when they weren't necessarily. So I just think it's kind of like, you know, just what's a good word for it? No, just him hauling over stuff that really, I don't say doesn't matter, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, I mean, you guys kind of made this bed that you're laying in right now too. You guys complaining about the ACC and not liking it over there, which kind of hurt yourself with the playoff, I feel. And I mean, in the long run, they're not going to be there anyways. I mean, here, within a handful of years, I would imagine they'll probably be out one way or another.
Now, this grant of rights, which the ACC believes to be ironclad, the ACC and the ESPN say that this grant of rights is ironclad, and that runs until 2036. So
money talks.
Money talks, and it's going to take a whole lot of money to be talking in this particular instance. The board director, Peter Collins for Florida State, said our actions today are less about the events of the last 2 weeks and far more about the actions of the ACC leadership over the past 10 years and what confronts FSU and the ACC over the next 13 years. The grant of rights gives the conference control over its media rights, which includes television revenue, home game broadcast, and all sports. In addition, any school, and this is something that we've already known, in addition, any school that wants to leave the ACC would have to pay an exit fee of 3 times the league's operating budget, which comes out to be about roughly $130 million. But all told, the university estimates the total exit fee, including the forfeiture of television revenue, would be $572 million.
Yeah, like I said, and that was including the 160, right?
That's including the 130.
Oh, the 130. That's
but that's not including any legal fees and what ESPN and what the ACC and the people who are on the side of the grant of rights have promised, that this is going to be a very long battle, which is why but at the same time, the ACC, but FSU here is stepping up to the table. Like, all right, well, we don't necessarily agree with what it is that you're laying out in front of us. We don't believe this agreement to be ironclad, and we think that we can defeat it. And they've been working on this. This isn't something that's just happening because of the college football playoff, but it absolutely accelerated the process. Because had they made the college football playoff, well, the whole ACC is looking better in general, right?
It'd be a moot point if they made the playoff. They probably wouldn't.
Right, yeah. Exactly. It would be a moot point. But then when you've got when you've got 3 commissioners in your conference who are on the college football playoff committee, and they vote against you, and they say it's not necessarily, they're voting against their conference at that point, which we don't want guys in the college football playoff committee just voting for their conference, because I think we get that a lot out of the SEC. Yeah. Exactly. So, but then on the flip side of that, there's a difference in voting for your buddies or voting for your conference mates and voting for an undefeated team. Yeah. And it's not in an undefeated team in the Power 5, in an undefeated team that took down 2 SEC teams. You can talk about where those teams are ranked within the SEC, but it's still the SEC. They're still underneath the conference of the SEC, right? So right. They're considered good teams at that point in time. I don't know, man. Just go ahead.
I was just going to say, those dudes that are on the committee, though, too, you don't know what kind of stuff's going back out, in the shadows on the table. I'm sure it's just like, FIFA and everything else, with people cutting deals under the table so that they can get stuff that they want and need. And when you have all that kind of stuff that can be happening, I mean, you can't say you're surprised that, 3 guys that are in ACC that are on there didn't vote for FSU. I'm sure there's other circumstances, other reasons that are persuading them to do those things or to make that decision.
The university alleges that when the ACC reached an extension of its media rights with ESPN back in 2016, the agreement granted the network a unilateral option to extend the deal an additional 9 years beyond its expiration, which would have been on June 30th in 2027 or until 2036. Florida State also alleges that the ACC told its members that ESPN had issued an ultimatum. Unless the members extended the grant of rights from 27 to 36, ESPN would not enter into further media agreements with the conference. FSU said it agreed to the grant of rights extension based on this representation, but you did agree to the deal. Regardless if ESPN said that it was going to be an ultimatum or not, that it goes from 27 to 2036, because the ACC would be in a lot better position if this ended in 3 years. But because we're talking about 13 years and all of the landscape in college football is changing, and we don't know, I mean, at this point,
You could not even have an ACC by that point in time.
Well, that could absolutely be true. The as fast as these things are moving, but at this point, you don't even know if the ACC is going to be the third best conference.
Yeah.
It will be boiled down to the Big 12 and the ACC, and which conference will rise and be the cream of the crop. In addition, the university alleges that the 2016 extension locked in the league members to the same rates negotiated in the previous 2012 multimedia rights contract with ESPN. So that left league members with the same revenue package for 24 years. The SEC and the Big Ten are jumping up $10 million, it feels like, every 3 years or so, where you are going to be in a conference who is behind the top two conferences in and of itself already, and now you're going to deal with the same amount of revenue for 24 years, and you're going to expect to be on the same playing field as the Big Ten and the SEC when it comes to recruiting these guys in the world of the NIL. So that right there is the thing where I'm like, yeah, we agreed to a bad deal up here, but all at the same time, if we're trying to keep our brand relevant, how are we going to stay in the ACC and receive the same amount of money for 24 years? Like, that cannot be sensical to either. Obviously, for ESPN, from the business side of it, yeah, it makes a ton of sense. But if you're the ACC and you want to keep your premier programs there, which you really, to be quite frank with you, only have two of them in Florida State and Clemson, then you've got to make things budge to keep them in there. Because once Florida State and Clemson are gone, you might as well just call yourself the academic collegiate conference.
Yeah, maybe I've heard somebody, I don't remember who suggests this, but just for football, like, have all these schools leave.
Chip Kelly said this.
And Chip Kelly. And then, the rest of the sports can still stay in their conferences and just have the football, jump ship, if you will, be kind of independent, like a Notre Dame or something like that, or like a BYU. And that might solve all the problems right there. And then you don't have to worry about jumping through all these hoops and suing and legal fees and, blah, 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 wait until, 2037.
I'm right there with you, though. I think that was such a beautiful proposement, if you will, from Chip Kelly, because we don't need to take these teams out of the Pac-12 for basketball, for football, for soccer, for swimming, for whatever. The travel as it is in the sport of football, which football can maintain that. Football
they're making the money,
that.
yeah. But so take like a whole soccer team or the rowing team or whatever and have them go across the country or something like that.
That's
just ridiculous.
For what? So he's exactly right, where these moves should have been made in a football scale only and not necessarily say break away, but to say it can't be done. Look at Notre Dame. They play 5 games a year in the ACC. So to say it can't be done is wild. And really, this whole situation for Florida State, now obviously we're talking about different sports, but I mean, if the Los Angeles Dodgers can pony up over $1 billion for 2 players, then I'm sure that we could get some crowdfunding going for Florida State here to get $527 million. In fact, if I'm the SEC right now, and I know the beautiful additions of Texas and Oklahoma, like, you are adding 2 blue-blooded programs to the SEC. That's great. But the Big Ten is adding 4. So jump while the iron is hot and go ahead and get Florida State and Clemson.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like I said, something's going to have to happen. You're going to have these super conferences, popping up. Those 2 schools are going to be moving on irregardless, depending on, how the landscape's going to change here in the next handful of years. Like I said earlier, ACC might not even exist anymore. Hell, all these conferences might not even exist anymore. We might have to rename them, like East, West, North, South, however.
I'm cool with that, too, and get it a little bit closer to the model of the NFL when it comes to what happens on the field matters more than anything else.
No doubt. And then that way, too, you're not about talking about rankings. Instead, you're talking about, standings with wins and losses. And that'll be, more pertinent in deciding who's in the playoff, who has the right to be there and whatnot, instead of, like we said, talking heads sitting in a room trying to decide.
If a judge grants declaratory judgment in favor of Florida State, the school would be able to leave the ACC without penalty. The departure would have to be effective August 14th of 2023, backdated to ensure Florida State could leave the conference in the event of new bylaws being put into place. If the judge declines to issue a judgment in favor of either side, Florida State and the ACC could be sent to mediation to negotiate a resolution.
I'm just kind of curious how it's going to go down, because it's going to be a tricky and sticky kind of like precedent that they're going to set by doing this for any other teams that might want to exit out here in the near future. So whatever they do, I think they better go cautiously and tread very lightly to make sure that anything happens down the future, that one, they don't look like a bunch of fools, and two, it'll help expedite the process of all this kind of stuff so we can move on and kind of get away from all this talk about all this stuff. Really takes away from the game too, and all the other stuff that we should be talking about.
I don't know if it really takes away from the game. It adds to the storylines. I think that there's elements of the actual moving that can take away from the game, because you are going to lose some rivalries. You are going to be traveling more, and you are going to make scheduling a nightmare because the conferences are going to be so stacked up.
Well, I mean, you already have so much movement right now because of the transfer portal and everything, and players moving. Now you're having all these teams moving conferences and stuff too. I mean, to me, it's just too many moving parts.
I can see where it is too many moving parts, but I know if you're a Clemson fan, Clemson's got to be back here licking their chops, right? Because it's like, all right, well, now we get to watch someone else kind of go up against the ACC, ESPN, and their grant of rights, and if they win here, then what can we do to
they'll follow suit immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's really, outside of that, we're starting to wind down on the schools who really move the needle for certain conferences.
I would think Clemson would have more money and they would have an easier time getting out than FSU, actually. Just because of their alumnus and stuff like that. I think they have yeah.
I think I don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion on who would have the easier. I think Florida State has the reason to get out, but for Clemson, they're in a position where, honestly, I could see Clemson sitting here taking this position. Oh, Florida State's out of here? Why would we go? Why would we follow them?
They can own the conference.
Exactly.
For the time being.
We already know that for the next 12 years, we're going to be going to the college football playoff, because it's a 12-team college football playoff at that point. And 9 times out of 10, we're going to win the ACC championship as long as we get 3 transfers out of the transfer portal.
You don't even have to win it. If you're pretty good and you might lose in that championship game, that still might be enough to get you in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 12 years, $325 million, plus an additional $50.6 million that was paid to Yamamoto's previous team, the Oryx Buffaloes, and they have
a transfer fee in soccer, kind of.
They have now spent over $1 billion in free agency. He does have a pair of opt-outs in his contract. He's going to receive a $50 million signing bonus, according to sources, but unlike Ohtani's deal, where he had $680 million deferred, none of this deal has any deferred money. He's never thrown a pitch, and now he is the highest paid. He's never thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball,
yeah.
And he is the highest paid pitcher, outlasting Garrett Cole by $1 million. The Dodgers have now accounted for more than half of the spending across Major League Baseball and free agency this winter. Yamamoto is 25 years old, and he's won 3 consecutive MVP awards and Sawamura awards, which is the equivalent of a Cy Young for the Nippon Professional Baseball League. And he's dominated in the league's 74-year history. No one has done it like him. He's had over 820 and a third innings. He's got an ERA of 1.65, and he struck out nearly 5 times as many hitters as he's walked, and allowed 1 home run per every 28 innings.
Curious to know, okay, so he's brand new. He hasn't pitched in the league, so obviously he's kind of unknown here in the States, okay? If you follow baseball, you're somebody like Max, or you're somebody like Sam Peebles. You've probably heard of him, beforehand, instead of all this stuff going on. But because of him not having the endorsement kind of deals that Ohtani has, I'm wondering if he had deals like that, if they would go deferred as well. But just because he doesn't have that ability, maybe he just wants his money up front, Well,
I think what the difference is with Ohtani, he knew that it was gonna require a large chunk of change for him, because it wasn't the Dodgers who went to Ohtani and said, "Hey, let us pay you later." It was Ohtani and his agent who went to the Dodgers, who said, "Hey, look, if we want to really build championships here, this is how we're going to do it."
But they were also looking for an exorbitant amount of money as well,
right? Exactly.
And if they were looking for a fair amount of money, they wouldn't have to do all this.
But here's the difference, though: even if they were to do $350 million of the deal, right then, and or you're going to get $350 million now, and then $350 million on the back end of the contract, backloaded. That's still good, but it opens up nowhere near amount of the options. I mean, for them to go out and get Glasnow, for them to get Yamamoto, for them to get Ohtani now, and it's not done.
They can still get more.
Yeah, and they've spent more money than anyone else in Major League Baseball. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs and putting Bone Crusher in a predicament here. We'll be right back, guys.
Home for the NFL. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This Christmas Eve, we've stuffed the stocking with an NFL triple header. Cover starts at 11:30 with the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. Then it's an interstate battle with the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the Jacksonville Jags at 3:05. Followed by Sunday Night Football at 6:30 as the New England Patriots try to play spoiler versus the Denver Broncos. 'Tis the season for the NFL on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Friday afternoon. The remainder of the day, clear skies and 67 with a light breeze coming out of the east-southeast at 6 miles per hour. For tonight, clear skies and a low near 50. Tomorrow, partly sunny and a high around 68. For Sunday, clouds in the morning followed by sprinkles and a high of 67. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
Sports fans, we love our teams, but let's talk real estate for a moment. Meet Berg Title, your trusted local real estate title and escrow company. Based in downtown Panama City, Berg Title knows the community inside out. They handle everything from title searches to escrow services with expertise. Honest, reliable, and here to make your real estate journey smooth. Remember, it's Berg Title. Call them at 850-250-2900. That's Berg Title, your partner for a worry-free real estate experience in Panama City and Panama City Beach.
Are you thirsty?
Oh, yeah, baby.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Call or text now.
Hello.
850-215-6290.
Is anyone there?
ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. This is the Afternoon Underdogs, and you are listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with Caveman Rick.
Yo.
And the Bone Crusher. Now, I know one of the off-season topics or one of the off-season conversations that we're going to have on here, and more than likely the Say What You Mean podcast as well, but we love to talk about the Patriots and their dynasty or their cheating scandals, and me and Caveman Rick love to have those conversations. But this last Sunday, New England Patriots coach Bill Belichick said that the kicking footballs used in the first half of Sunday's loss to the Kansas City Chiefs were underinflated by 2 to 2.5 pounds, and he deferred to the NFL as to why that was the case for both teams. He said that we didn't have anything to do with it and that they were definitely aware of it, but you'd have to talk to the league about what happened on that. But 2 to 2.5 pounds off pressure, that's wild.
Yeah, well, first I'd say that he's got experience. He probably knows what an underdeflated football looks like and maybe feels like, and he probably like somebody that handles certain stuff like, in their hands a lot can say, yeah, this was about 2.5 pounds underweight, you know what I'm saying? So, all he's doing is giving a little more credence that, you kind of know what you're talking about, Bill. If you can just, look over there and kind of notice, hey, something doesn't kind of, seem right, I've seen this kind of before. So, or, like I mentioned, too, we were off air before we come on. Mm-hmm. A lot of talk about him losing his job at the end of this season, right? Maybe he's just deflecting, trying to divert attention someplace else so he doesn't get all the questions about him losing his job, so he doesn't have to keep saying, on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, on to Cincinnati. That's a good point. The Butker said he didn't notice. He's a Chiefs kicker, right?
And he would notice.
He said that he didn't notice.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, don't you think the kicker would notice? The guy that's kicking the ball every day, all day long?
Well, you did have the Patriots kicker who said he did notice it. And what brought Bill's attention to it was the kick from Harrison Butker, which I believe was his first missed kick of the year. And then you also had Chad Ryland miss a 41-yarder, and then you had 2 kickoffs almost went out of bounds, and that's where Belichick said you could see how underinflated the balls were affected in that game, or how the underinflated footballs were affected in that game.
Yeah, well, like I said, again, he's got experience, so I guess he would probably know more than probably some other just random people out there. So big surprise, shocker. Not surprised.
Not surprised. Not really a huge piece of news by any stretch of the imagination.
Kind of funny, though.
But we will go over to the phone line. We've got Travis on the line. Merry Christmas, Travis. How's everything going? What you got for us?
It's going pretty good. The only thing I got for y'all is just to tell y'all, because I know I don't have all y'all's numbers, so I can't text y'all Monday. But I just wanted to tell y'all Merry Christmas and to have a really good one.
Thank you,
right on, man. Appreciate it, man. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Hopefully you guys have a good one.
I might have another one to say.
You might have another what?
Christmas.
Oh,
right on.
Merry Christmas. What's your name?
Hey, hang on. I got you on speaker now.
Okay. What's your name?
Raylan.
Raylan?
I think she said Raven.
Raven.
There's no name Raylan.
No, it's Raylan.
It is.
Yeah, Raylan. I got a granddaughter named Raylan. So
Yeah,
there
look
you go.
at oh, wow. Boker, you just...
Of course she did.
Yeah.
Sure, right.
It really does.
I do. She's 9 years old, man, and she's something special, let me tell you.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Raylan.
You say thank you?
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Travis, real quick before we get you off the line here, tell me about how signing day went for your Gators. You ended up coming away with Lagway. You confident in Lagway for 2024?
I don't know if he's going to start. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, can you start him over Mertz? Will he beat him out? I don't know. My biggest thing is everybody says that we were a bust for signing day, and we didn't do as good as I had anticipated, or a lot of people had. But at the same time, you know, a lot of what I heard too was some of the players we lost really, you know, even the 5 stars might not have made a complete turnaround right away. Anyway, I mean, you think about it. What's his name? Kamari Wilson was a 5-star, and
yeah.
How many times did you hear his name? I mean, how many times was he even on the field?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we did a lot better than
what the noise is from the media.
Yeah, because a lot of people saying it was a terrible day for us. I mean, we got L.J. McCray and D.J. Lagway. Those 2 guys are going to be 2 guys that, you know, either one way or another are going to make a serious impact. Lagway and him are recruiting right now. I mean, Zay Mincy has just signed his letter of intent, but it's not saying who it is, who it's to. But he was on the live with LJ, and you know, LJ was like, that paper better have a gator on it.
Don't you think? Don't you think, like, you know, part of this, you know, the media giving, you know, you guys a hard time is a lot of it's attributed to, you know, what happened about a month ago with the shenanigans on the field and spitting in the face and the way, you know, Napier handled that. And then this is just more of like, and I don't say a punishment, but it kind of like, you know, like taking your medicine a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that could be it. At the end of the day, that was something that was a rivalry game that was handled terribly, and I've got to put that on the coaching staff, and that made Florida look incredibly bad.
And that's going to hurt your recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, that could. But then again, if I'm a recruit, yeah, but like think about if I'm a recruit and I see one game where that's happened all year. Heck, one game that's happened. I've never heard that happen before.
Right, but I think you have a lot of parents that would say, "Hey, I'm not going to let you play for that guy."
I mean, if we're talking about somebody that like Miami's pretty bad about doing that kind of stuff. You know, like I mean, if it happens all the time, I see it messing with recruiting. Happening once, I haven't even really thought about that. I mean, that's a good point though.
I mean, people's memories, you know, for stuff like that, you know, don't fade pretty quick.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's nobody has short-term memory.
When you got video and stuff nowadays, too, it usually lasts longer.
Yeah, just a little bit, just till that cycle changes up a little bit, and it absolutely changes whenever the collective sends them a check.
No doubt.
For the NIL, and then they'll sign that NL.
The one thing I do think is going to hurt recruiting is, I don't know if y'all have Twitter or X and kind of look at anything, but what Ernest Graham, his dad, put on Twitter that, and I imagine he's talking about Florida, that there is a serious disconnect from this organization, that there is no, it's the driest experience. He just kind of crapped on Florida for a lot.
And that's not good, because Ernest Graham was a Gator, and Miles Graham was going to be a legacy commit, because we actually had the privilege of Miles Graham, I believe, played for Buchholz.
Right. But Brandon Spikes got retweeted and said, "Don't worry, he's in good hands, trust me." So I don't know if that's going to help, but either way, the post is there, and it's there for everyone to see that. I guess Miles Graham, after he committed or whatever, didn't get contacted. He got, they kind of just forgot about him as soon as he signed the paper. Kind of seemed like what I was getting that feel off there. He might have meant something totally different, and who knows, he might not even talked about Florida.
Hey, let me stop you right there real quick and take you in a different direction real quick before we get you off the line. I want to kind of go over some betting nuggets for the NFL here in Week 16. But Ryan, obviously, Ryan Mulvey, host of the Inside Drive, was asking some of the callers and some of his guests 3 things that they would want for their sports teams as a Christmas wish list. So, Travis, give me 3 things that you want for your sports teams pertaining to 2024 or even for the rest of this year.
Dennis Allen out of Louisiana. For Florida to really get on the ball. And I guess this ties in with the first one, for the Saints to completely lose out so we can do a complete rehaul, which is what we need.
Gonna get you some Jaden Daniels. Well, hey, Travis, Merry Christmas to you and Raylan. Thanks so much for the call, my friend, and look forward to chatting with you soon, all right?
Yeah, man. Merry Christmas to all of y'all.
Merry Christmas, Travis.
Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas to everyone listening. Couple of notes from the NFL. Geno Smith is expected to start against the Titans. Jonathan Taylor will make his return versus the Falcons. Trevor Siemian is going to be starting for the Jets. Zach Wilson is still in concussion protocol, and Tyreek Hill looks optimistic to be playing against the Cowboys in what should be the best game of the week, Dolphins-Cowboys, unless the Dolphins do what they do and just don't show up because they're not playing at AT&T Stadium, which, can you believe the AT&T Stadium as of yesterday had been around for 15 years or been open for 15 years?
Yeah, the way things are moving nowadays, it seems like these stadiums, every time you turn around, I mean, they're like 20 years old. You bat an eye and they're putting up a new one. So, yeah, I can believe that Jerry Will was a big deal then, but, man, he's already been beat out so many times by so many better places.
That's a good point.
SoFi's crazy.
Betting nuggets for NFL Week 16. We've got the Bengals at the Steelers. The Bengals are a 3-point road favorite, and the total sitting at 38.5. Our nugget for that one is the Steelers are 0-3 against the spread in their past 3 games. They are also 0-3 against the spread in their past 3 games as an underdog. Does that trend change, Caveman Rick?
Geez, that's a tough one. I would say no. The trend's probably going to stick to the same. It's the Steelers are pretty much status quo. Same with like Mike Tomlin not having a losing season. Kind of crazy too to piggyback off of that, hearing what Ryan Clark was saying this morning on ESPN about Tomlin needs to coach someplace else, because you would have thought he would have told stay there as long as you want, you know. So big ups to him, though, for coming with an honest opinion, you know. And like he said, similar to Andy Reid, I think after a while, you know, maybe the voice kind of gets tuned out a little bit. It gets a little lost, and then you need something new.
Where would you like to see Tomlin?
Oh, Lord, Tomlin, man.
I know 3 places you wouldn't like to see him.
Yeah, I don't want him in the NFC East, let's put it that way, because that's improves, you know, any of those 3 teams. Stay in the AFC, first off. And, I mean, he's a pretty good coach, man. I like saying he's proven.
Would the Chargers change their identity if Mike Tomlin became their coach, or would the curse be too strong? That's a pretty good one.
I don't know. Like, I would think, honestly, of Mike Tomlin, I would rather, Chargers is fair enough. I was going to say Chargers, like, maybe, like, I don't know. I would say AFC, but Cardinals. A franchise that hasn't done anything.
You think they would move off of your guys? Who was y'all's DC? Gannon. Yeah.
No, I don't think they would. I'm just naming, like, franchises that are, you know, just, like, haven't won.
The Raiders.
Yeah. But they did win back, you know, with Madden and stuff, and they do have a little bit of a history of success.
I guess I'm talking about the identity of the Raiders. Like, just, you know what I mean? Tomlin kind of fits that vibe.
I don't see him working for
Mark Davis.
No way in hell, dude. If he goes someplace, he's going to go to an ownership group or an owner that's entrenched well in the league, that's been there. You know, that's got you know, certain kind of clout and, you know, a little bit of integrity. I think that's the kind of person he'd work for.
Buffalo at the Chargers. Again, both of these games are on Saturday. Both of these games right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage for that Cincinnati and Pittsburgh game will start after our Troy-Duke College Football Bowl game, and then Buffalo and the Chargers will follow that. The Bills are a 12.5-point or 12.5-point favorite on the road. 43.5 is what the total is, and the Chargers are 0-5 against the spread as underdogs this season, including 0-3 against the spread as home underdogs. They are also 0-5 outright and against the spread against teams currently with winning records too. Take the over. Take Buffalo with the points. Take them to cover the points. Just don't bet on Easton Stick and the LA Chargers. Detroit at Minnesota. Detroit 3-point favorite. Again, another road favorite. 47.5. A little higher of a total here. The Vikings have covered 5 straight games as an underdog. 5-1-1 against the spread this season as an underdog, but they've covered 5 straight games as an underdog. Do you like the Vikings to stick within 3 of the Detroit Lions?
I don't think so. With Nick Mullins quarterback, and no, I think Detroit's going to run all over them.
I agree with you. The Colts at the Falcons. This one could be interesting. We've got our first home favorite, the Falcons, 2.5-point favorite. 44.5 is the total. The Colts, though, are 9-5 against the spread this season, which is tied for the best record in the NFL. Now, I don't understand how the Falcons are favorites outside of them being at the house here.
At the house,
but you get those 3 points. But I guess my thought process is they haven't even been able to stick with one quarterback. It's back and forth, which has been a trend throughout the league. But it's Desmond Ridder, Heineke. Which direction are we going? Oh, Ridder had a bad fourth quarter. Oh, Heineke didn't throw too well this game. Well, and so they can't really make their mind up, whereas the Colts have been looking pretty good defensively. Jonathan Taylor's coming back, and Gardner Minshew hasn't really led them astray. So why in the world are the Falcons favorites here?
Vegas knows something we don't, and they always seem to know something, you know. Gardner Minshew, Uncle Rico, has been playing outstanding. You said they're 9-5, you know, with the spread. I bet you those 9 wins probably came with Minshew starting.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised to find that out because of all those games and the kind of success he has. So, yeah, it's kind of like a conundrum as to why. But, I mean, you know, Falcons being at the house, I always say, yeah, it's definitely the reason why. And I mean, I hate to say it, but don't count out the Falcons, man. They got so much talent on that team. They do. Like the Buffalo Bills, man, like so much talent, and like they were just faltering so much. But man, if they just have a good day, you know, and get their crap together, they can put some points on you.
If they just, go ahead, Bone Crusher.
I can't believe y'all are talking about the Atlanta Falcons. Dirty Birds.
Oh man, I as a Titans fan, I feel bad that you guys hired Arthur Smith, because that was like a 3-year purgatory for you guys, and you got the defense over there. You got to figure out the quarterback position. I think you move on from Ridder. You retain Heineke to play backup, and then you draft someone who's going to be that guy, or find a way to get Justin Fields in Atlanta. I think that he could take that offense. Not only would he grow being with more, having more talent outside of him, but the Atlanta Falcons would grow as well because the receivers are very young. We'll get into some more of these betting nuggets if we find time, but coming up next, we're going to be talking with Phil Gaffney. He is the head coach for men's basketball at Gulf Coast State College. We shall return shortly.
Your home for college football. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Bowl season kicks off the holidays tonight. It's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets versus the University of Central Florida Knights in the Gasparilla Bowl.
That ball is caught! Touchdown, Georgia Tech!
Coverage starts at 5:30. Then, Saturday, coverage starts at 11 for the Birmingham Bowl as the Troy Trojans take on the Duke Blue Devils. Right here on your home for college bowl games on the Gulf Coast, ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Friday afternoon. The remainder of the day, clear skies and 67 with a light breeze coming out of the east-southeast at 6 miles per hour. For tonight, clear skies and a low near 50. Tomorrow, partly sunny and a high around 68. For Sunday, clouds in the morning followed by sprinkles and a high of 67. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hi folks, it's Tracy from Tracy's Fine Jewelry. Santa called and he asked me to help everyone get ready for Christmas and avoid the stress and rush. So we've stocked the store with all of our favorite pieces of gold jewelry, chains, bracelets, pendants, and earrings. Whatever you're looking for, Tracy's Fine Jewelry has the largest selection and the best prices in town. Looking for a curb chain for Dad? Tracy's has it. A gold cross for your sister? Tracy's has it. Even those white gold hoop earrings, yep, that's right folks, Tracy's has it. So shop where Santa shops. Tracy's Fine Jewelry inside Coin and Bullion Reserves.
It's time to pick your path and go big and go bold from Bill Bird Kia. You can drive away in a brand new 2024 Telluride from Bill Bird Kia. The 2024 Telluride protects what matters, and it's built for the long haul. Its technology will connect with confidence, and its upscale, all-around rugged look will take you on to the next adventure. The road is yours. Bill Bird Kia, the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us today at 2435 East 15th Street or BillBirdKia.com.
Takes the latest trades, in-depth interviews.
That is my reaction.
We break it down for you right here.
Very big springboard for the rest of my career.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
That's the problem right there.
4.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And you're back in the doghouse riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. This is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 right here in Panama City and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Now we have the privilege and opportunity to be talking with Phil Gaffney. He is the head men's basketball coach over there for the Commodores of Gulf Coast State College, and he is entering into his 4th season over there. Coach Gaffney, how's it going?
Great. How you guys doing today?
Oh, we are wonderful.
Excellent.
Just wrapping up the week here, getting ready for the weekend, and hopefully you and your Commodores and your family have a very Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. We're on a 10-day break. In JUCO, we take a little break. We play because we have final exams and the semester's over, and we don't get the guys back till the 26th of December for practice. So we're kind of enjoying it, this 10 days off, and getting on the recruiting trail and, trying to get some guys signed for next year.
Absolutely. Since you went that direction, I wanted to ask you, we've been talking a lot about the transfer portal with it being early signing day. Has the transfer portal been a benefit for smaller schools like Gulf Coast State College?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have had a lot of success. I was at Georgia Highlands before here, and we went Final Four, Sweet 16, and won most games in the country and had a 56-game win streak. Did a lot of great things, and my whole team was Division I transfers. Back in the day, the only place they could go was JUCO. So if they had to sit out a year, they don't have to sit out anymore, but when they had to sit out a year, JUCO was a really attractive place to go. And our talent level was very, very good, and it was not unusual. Like, I didn't recruit freshmen. It was not unusual to have 12 of the 12 all be sophomores. And it was really a beautiful thing. And just to show you the difference, 9 of my 11 this year are freshmen.
Oh, wow.
So we've gone totally in the other direction. So, no, the transfer portal has certainly hurt us badly. And I know we're all talking about the NIL and will it get regulated and changed? Will the transfer portal get changed, and I'm certainly an advocate for it for selfish reasons, because we'll be able to put a better product on the floor when we're able to get those D1 transfers.
What about for the high school athlete, though? Because what we're noticing in football is these guys across the border are getting picked up, not the high school athlete, but they're going from big school to big school, and so that kind of leaves the high school athlete being the odd man out. Is that the same in collegiate basketball?
Absolutely. And we are getting a better level of high school player. But they're just not as developed and ready. Obviously, everybody wants to be bigger and stronger and older. I mean, that's what wins games: bigger, stronger, more experienced. So, yeah, and I feel terrible, especially after the COVID year with everything and given the extra year of college. I feel so bad. These freshmen coming out now, man, you got to be really, really good to get recruited, because they can just go get another kid that's older and bigger, stronger, and more developed. And you know, why get a high school kid when you don't have to put all that time and effort in? So if you're a high school kid coming out in basketball, football, anything, it is much, much harder now than it was just 3-4 years ago.
Coach, tell us a little bit about your season to this point in the year for the 9-4 Gulf Coast State Commodores.
Yeah, we're actually 11-4. And life is good. We beat a couple nationally ranked teams. We've lost to a couple nationally ranked teams, but played a really, really challenging schedule, which gets us ready for the Panhandle. So 11-4 with all freshmen who are contributing and doing a good job. We've been able to get a lot better. So we're pretty excited about where we are right now. And we have 3 D1 transfers only this year, but those 3 have done a great job for us. Andre Young's a transfer from Troy University. Jackson Ellingworth's a transfer from East Carolina. And he's really developing into a dominant player. I really think he could go high major from here. And then we have a kid named Isaiah Nelson Adota, who was at Tennessee Tech, and he's really defensively playing well for us. His sister was one of the best players in the country, and she played at UConn and Big East, like, defensive player of the year. She was a great player and got drafted. She plays the WNBA. So we're just hoping he develops like she did, and he keeps getting better and becomes a good player for us. So we're excited to be 11-4. Obviously, we'd rather be 15-0, but we played 15 more games. 9 of those are at home. 12 of them are on the Panhandle Conference, and we've played a sufficiently hard schedule to where I think we're going to be able to be competitive this year and, hopefully do some good things.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We are chatting with Phil Gaffney. He is the head coach for men's basketball at Gulf Coast State College and the Commodores. Coach, when we first got on the line with you, you were mentioning about the break that you guys are on. What challenges come with having, I think, 6 days? And looking at your schedule, I saw 6 days between the games, and then you guys have the Visit PCB Classic on the 30th and the 31st, and then it looks like another 8 days off. What are some of those challenges here in this point of the year, or is it just focused mainly on recruiting and family time at this point?
Well, we have a couple guys that were injured, so that's obviously one thing where this time will be a positive. But you're right, it's a real negative because, when you're coaching Division I, which I used to do, we would, a lot of times we're practicing on Thanksgiving and practicing on Christmas because we're in a holiday tournament, or maybe you give them a day or 2 off. You're not giving them 10 days off. That doesn't happen. So when they go home, for 10 days, you're hoping that they're getting strong. They're running and they're lifting and they're working on their game and they're working out with their old high school team. You have to hope that, but you're not there with them. And so you really, really don't know what's going on. And we also don't have many local kids. We are fortunate. Tank Washington, who was a great player at Bay High School for 3 years, and he's probably one of those guys we were talking about, David. He probably should have got recruited higher. He should have been probably playing at a 4-year school, somewhere that he just didn't get maybe as good as what he could have got when he ended up here. But we're glad to have him, and certainly him and I'll be in the gym tomorrow. But all the rest of the guys, they're not local. So I have no idea what our guys from New York and Atlanta and North Carolina, what they're doing to work out. So we just gotta. We tell them to keep it up, and hey, if you want to get back, you want to be a starter, you want to be an all-league player, then these 10 days are super important. But it's really on that student-athlete to go out and work his tail off and, not get fat after, 10 days of sitting home and eating lots of turkey and ham with his family.
Speaking of that Visit PCB Classic, what days will that be going on? The 30th and the 31st, right?
Yep, and it's always been that way, and I've always left it that way. Jay Powell, my predecessor, liked to do it right before the holiday, so we do it 31st. It's 12, 2, and 4, so everybody gets out of there early, and it's great basketball. Northwest Florida, who's been in our conference, they won the national championship 2 years ago, and they lost in the last minute last year. They'll be over there, and they've been ranked number 1 this year. Chipola, who's been to 2 of the last 3 Final Fours, will also be over. So we're having 3 Panhandle teams playing teams from Georgia and Alabama. So it'll be kind of a real good warm-up for the Panhandle Conference, and it'll be a good opportunity. People want to come out and see the Panhandle teams play and all the talent play. All these guys you're going to be seeing will be playing on TV somewhere next year. So it's kind of fun to get out and see a really high level of basketball.
Yeah, I'm going to be coming to that game on the 30th when you guys tip off at 4 p.m., right, against Georgia Highlands?
Yep, we play 4 o'clock both days, and it's a fun game, that game, because I started the athletic program at Georgia Highlands about 10 years ago, and as AD and basketball coach, and the assistant coach, or the head coach there, was my assistant for 7 years. So it's kind of bittersweet. You want to win, but you don't want to beat your buddy. But it's fun that they come down and you get to relive some memories with my old coaching staff.
Is this your first time going up or coaching up against Georgia Highlands?
No, I've coached against them a few different times, so it's kind of a little bit old hat, but it's always a little different when it's somebody that you care about. You really don't want them to lose. You're beating somebody, it could affect their job status sometime, and affects their season, affects what kind of mood they're in the next week. So, but of course, you want your guys to win. So it's always a difficult game, but we enjoy coming down and getting to hang out a little bit. When you have a tournament like this, you can socialize and go out for dinner and hang out a little bit, and teams get to know each other a little bit too. So it's a great experience, and of course, everybody loves coming to Panama City.
Yeah. It is the destination spot, that's for sure. Well, Coach, I thought I was going to be doing some helping coaching basketball, and then whenever I went to the meeting, it looks like I'll be my first time ever doing any type of coaching in basketball. I'll be helping out some 4th and 5th graders here as I guess as the head coach. Any advice for someone who's never even coached basketball for kids in 4th and 5th grade?
Wow. Is this your coaching debut, David?
No, it's not my coaching debut. This is this year is, though. I'm actually currently doing flag football with Ryan Mulvey.
Ah, nice. Well, just to make it fun and teach fundamentals is always the important part. And as long as kids are having fun and they're learning the fundamentals. And talking about coaching, assistant coaching, we got, I think, a friend of yours, Rusty Cook.
Yes, sir.
He used to be at High for many years. He did a fantastic job over there with Tank and all the different players he had, and he's coming over and he's been with us this year, so we've been really blessed to have him. And man, what a great job he does, a new perspective, fresh perspective coming from the high school ranks, and he knows all the high school coaches, he knows all the player for local recruiting, but really intelligent basketball mind. So we're really fortunate to have Rusty over helping us out.
Yes, sir. We actually had him on the line earlier this week with us when I was trying to coordinate with you to get you on here. We're doing like a high school basketball roundup with him, and then I want to make sure that we keep our tabs here on the Commodores for Panama City as a whole. And I cannot wait for that game Saturday against the Georgia Highlands, or not this Saturday, but that'll be next Saturday. So, Coach, good luck to you. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time. Merry Christmas, and again, thank you for the for the coaching tips there. Maybe, hopefully, we can make some future Commodores.
Absolutely. I appreciate it very much. Love listening to you guys on the way home after work, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That is Coach Phil Gaffney. He is the head coach for men's basketball at Gulf Coast State College. A pleasure to have him on, and we've got every sport, I feel like, Gulf Coast, right? They're good at baseball, they're good at softball, they're good at men's and women's basketball, and they're good at volleyball, as they just proved over about a month ago.
Pretty good swimming and stuff, too, aren't they? I thought.
I don't know. I'll ask Brian Haddad on that. I know they got a pool.
Yeah.
So that's got to count for something.
If you got a pool, then you're probably doing all right.
All right, man. Yeah. So we'll get back into some of these betting nuggets here, but definitely appreciative of Coach Gaffney coming on and getting us caught up. And it's funny, he brought that up about how I didn't know that he had started the athletic program basketball team over there for Georgia Highlands, but I was reading in his bio that he had coached at Georgia Highlands for 8 years. He was the head coach over there for, I believe, 8 years. And seeing that, I was like, oh man, so it's not even really coincidental that they're going to be playing them in this Visit PCB Classic. So I'm really excited about that. You got the 30th and the 31st, and those games will be starting at 4 p.m. All right, what is a game that you're looking forward to? How about let's go to that Dallas-Miami
Well, I was going to say, that's the biggest game of the weekend, really.
All right, so Miami and the Dolphins are a 1-point favorite. The total is nice and high at 49.5, and the Dolphins are 8-2 against the spread as favorites this season. And Caveman, I think you're going to love this second part. The Cowboys are 0-3 against the spread as underdogs.
Yeah.
So which way would you lean? Do you like obviously I know that you can never say that you like Dallas, but my question is, do you like Dallas with the +1 or Miami with the -1? And does Tyreek Hill playing have any effect on your pick here?
Oh, definitely. Right? Tyreek Hill's definitely going to have an effect on the pick. I mean, if he's in the game, then you definitely have to say Miami's got the edge in this one. Without Tyreek Hill, I think the edge goes to Dallas. Still being that way, I think Miami, they kind of need it more, to be honest with you. I think Dallas is a good team at home. They're not so good on the road. They do like playing on that track, like I've said before. But I think Miami being a South Florida team, and we know what that means when you start going on the road in like January, how that bodes poorly for you. So because of that, I like Miami. I think Miami's going to need it more. They're going to come out guns blazing, and they're going to try to run the score up.
All right, we'll talk about one of the most important games of the weekend: the Patriots at the Broncos. No, I'm just kidding. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Buccaneers, right? I mean, that one is a huge one. You've got the NFC South right now all jumbled up with now just 2 teams, but the Saints only fell a game behind last night, even though that game was out of hand for the entirety of the game. It looked a little closer at the end with that 30-22, I believe, was the final last Thursday night. So the Bucs are a 3-point favorite. The Bucs are a 3-point favorite. Total sitting at 41.5. The Buccaneers are 0-6 outright against teams currently with winning records, but they're 3-3 against the spread. Hour number 2 is coming up next. We're going to kick it off with Derek Tate. It'll be our final segment of the afternoon. Then we're going to get you to some college football.
You're home for the NFL. ESPN Northwest Florida.
This Christmas Eve, we stuffed the stocking with an NFL triple header. Cover starts at 11:30 with the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. Then it's an interstate battle with the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the Jacksonville Jags at 3:05. Followed by Sunday Night Football at 6:30 as the New England Patriots try to play spoiler versus the Denver Broncos. 'Tis the season for the NFL on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Friday afternoon. The remainder of the day, clear skies and 67 with a light breeze coming out of the east-southeast at 6 miles per hour. For tonight, clear skies and a low near 50. Tomorrow, partly sunny and a high around 68. For Sunday, clouds in the morning followed by sprinkles and a high of 67. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
The sounds of is everywhere, and the cooler weather is back a little now and then. So that means it's time for a trip to that boot store to outfit the whole family in their favorite Western wear for that colder weather on the way. And if you need quality work clothes, check out the large selection of Carhartt work clothes, boots, and shoes available at that boot store, open Tuesday through Thursday, 9 till 5, and Friday and Saturday, 9 till 5:30, next to Billboard Kia, 15th Street in Panama City. Remember, God is good all the time.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Your home for Auburn Tiger basketball. WGSX Lynn Haven. WVLQ Port St. Joe.
ESPN Northwest Florida, War Eagle.
It's real, and it starts now. Back to the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm the sports talk monster. ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. It is hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs, and you are listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 here in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes, along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. We are the Afternoon Underdogs, and you are in the doghouse for the final segment of the week here with the Afternoon Underdogs, because after this segment, we're going to take you to the coverage for Georgia Tech and UCF, which starts at 5:30, and the kick is at 5:30 as well. What you got, Caveman Rick?
Final segment for the rest of the year, right? Because we're not going to be on next week because of bowl games, right?
I guess for you, technically speaking, because I'll be on the inside drive for 2 days next week.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying for Afternoon
But
Underdogs.
but for the Afternoon Underdogs, you are right. That is such a sad thing to say.
It is.
Because then I think that we owe it to the listeners to do a show on New Year's Day or something. But I can't do that, though. I can't do that. Alabama's playing at 4 o'clock. Ain't no way I'm going to miss the college football playoff just to talk about some bowl games when the bowl games are actually going on. So we'll get back Tuesday, because we got to do our Golden Bone Awards.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
That'll be our
third year, right?
Yeah, how wild is that?
That's
But now
awesome.
we're going to go over to Derek Tate. He's a fantasy analyst for ProFootballNetwork.com. Hey, what is going on, Derek?
Oh, nothing much. Just getting busy on wrapping some Christmas gifts for my girls and, buying a lot of princess stuff and just enjoying the holiday season, though. Like, getting ready, heading into the holiday weekend. Going to be a little bit busy with some football coverage, but also getting to spend some time with my girls, so it's going to be fantastic.
Do you ever sneak in presents that are, like, not subliminally, but secretly kind of for you to be able to play with them?
Oh, yeah. I bought like a little unicorn thing that they can kind of ride around on. And, you think that I'm not going to use that in my spare time? Of course I am. Duh. So, yeah, I do get some gifts that are mutually beneficial for not only my girls, but for myself as well.
Awesome.
Derek, who's had the toughest QB conundrum this year? I mean, there's been so many. Aaron Rodgers going down on the 4th or the 5th snap. You've got the Browns who are down to their 3rd or 4th, to their 4th guy. I mean, the Jets back and forth between Zach Wilson, C.J. Stroud with the Texans. Who's had the toughest quarterback conundrum this year?
I gotta say it's the New York Jets. I was writing a piece earlier where I was discussing my Week 16 rankings at the quarterback position. I'm like, there's been 71 starting quarterbacks during the 2023 season. 71! That's insane. I got to think that it's the New York Jets because they just have not been able to find any answers. And it's unfortunate because they got a lot of talent on that roster at some very important key positions that could help them make a little bit of noise in the AFC if they were to get into the playoffs. But obviously, they got nothing left to play for but pride or Aaron Rodgers' ego if he decides to come back. But I digress. It's definitely been the New York Jets for me, though.
What is the game of the week? I think the last 3 weeks, I feel like these have been kind of easy to answer. But what is the game of the week this week for fantasy football in Week 16?
Even though this might be a little bit lower scoring, I'm still so intrigued by what's going on between the San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens. Offensively, you can make an argument that there's going to be some more production, I would say, from the Miami Dolphins and the Dallas Cowboys. But, man, I just get a feeling that this is going to be some sort of heavyweight fight between the Ravens and the 49ers, two teams with Super Bowl aspirations. And, I could see Lamar or Brock Purdy kind of separating themselves from the rest of the pack as far as an MVP bid this season if one of those two players has a big performance. And I think it's gonna be a little bit higher scoring game than a lot of people think between the Niners and the Ravens.
Oh, I like that. I was thinking it was going to go, you were going to go Cowboys-Dolphins there, so we'll get to that one here in a little bit. Who is the underdog of the week this week? Talking about a team, not necessarily a fantasy footballer. Who is the underdog of the week?
The underdog of the week that I could see potentially picking up a win, and maybe this is just near and dear to my heart, but I do think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because if Trevor Lawrence plays, I have to imagine the Jags are going to be favored heading into that football game. The Buccaneers, man, the way that they've kind of rallied behind Baker Mayfield having himself, his best game in a Bucs uniform by far against the Green Bay Packers, over 300 yards passing, 4 touchdown passes. Finally got Chris Godwin involved. But Rashawn White starting to get it done on the ground after failing to top 80 yards on the ground in any of his first 11 games of the season or 10 games. He's gone for over 80 yards in 4 straight contests. So the Buccaneers seem to be clicking on the offensive side of the ball at the right time, and I'm interested to see how they respond at home against a playoff caliber team in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence, as a Bucs fan, I'm obviously it's going to be a little bit easier to go up against Jags. If Lawrence doesn't play, I don't know if he's going to clear concussion protocol in time, but I'm very intrigued by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home with their aspirations to try to take the NFC South and punch their tickets to playoffs.
Hey, Derek, Caveman Rick, man, Merry Christmas. Thanks for giving us some of your time, man. I know you got to be busy, so it means a lot to us, man. Thanks a bunch.
No problem. Merry Christmas to you, too.
I want to ask you, who's a sleeper you got this week, man, for fantasy football?
If you're talking just purely sleepers, I just mentioned Baker Mayfield. I kind of think that he's in line to kind of outproduce his rankings heading into Week 16. But another guy that I'm keeping an eye on is Chase Brown, the running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, the Pittsburgh Steelers just gave up a boatload of rushing yards, not really to even Zach Moss. It was like Tyler Goodson and Trey Sermon. Now they're welcoming Joe Mixon and Chase Brown, who Brown's actually seen 10 touches in 3 straight games. So he's working in a complementary role, but he's also a big play threat. We saw that with his 54-yard receiving touchdown just a couple weeks ago on a screen pass that he took to the house. But I'm interested to see what this Bengals team, which seems to be getting a little bit of momentum with Jake Browning under center, but also to see this role for Chase Brown, a talented rookie out of Illinois, continue to expand. So Chase Brown's kind of a guy to keep an eye on at the running back position, and then at wide receiver. I know it's not pretty, and you got Easton Stick under center for the Los Angeles Chargers, but look, Joshua Palmer, somebody's got to catch some passes, and Palmer caught 4 passes for over 100 yards and a score against the Las Vegas Raiders last week. I still think that he's going to see a healthy target volume, and it may not be efficient, but there's going to be some work for Joshua Palmer, so I could see him being a sleeper guy that's ranked outside of the top 30 on most consensus rankings, but I see him being able to be in flex consideration this week, and I've got to have a game in the fantasy playoffs.
Is there a notable player out there, someone that we've had locked into our lineups all year long? Is there a notable player out there who maybe this week we think about putting on the bench because his matchup is not favorable?
I'm not going to go matchup for this reason, but it's actually in that same game. Guys, most folks spent a top 5 pick on Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
And 5 carries for 9 yards last week against the Raiders. Now, of course, it became a blowout. We saw a career-high 15 carries for Isaiah Spiller, former Texas A&M Aggie. Yeah, it's Austin Eckler. I don't like saying it because of how great he's been over the last 3 seasons, and he certainly is somebody that he has embraced the fantasy community, and he's been such a producer and such a superstar and such a reliable force for fantasy managers over the last 2-3 seasons. But if you're looking just at his recent production, 4 out of his last 5 games, he's gone for fewer than 10 fantasy points in a PPR format. So if you have other options that are trending in the right direction, I would be okay with sitting Austin Eckler. It sounds crazy, but despite his big name, brand name value in fantasy football, all of the usage concerns are pointing in the wrong direction for Eckler recently. So I would consider sitting him if you have other options.
All right, Derek, I'm going to ask you to put on your Swami hat right now, maybe look into your crystal ball. But who would you say do you see being the next head coach fired this season?
If there's anybody that could potentially get fired before the end of the regular season, which I don't know if I see that happening, but I got to think it's like Ron Rivera. If there is a chance to justify getting a true look at Eric Bieniemy as a head coach in the National Football League, it looks like this Washington Commanders team has just completely mailed it in. I know they showed a little bit of life last week against the Los Angeles Rams once Jacoby Brissett got in under center, but Yeah, I mean, if they lose to the Jets, say the Jets actually put up like a huge offensive performance against a Washington defense that's been putrid throughout most of the season, whether Jack Del Rio's been the defensive coordinator or not. We just all know that Ron Rivera is not going to be the coach in 2024. So why not get a small sample size of what the head coaching position or the head coaching philosophy or production you can get from Eric Bieniemy over the last 2 games? I would say that Ron Rivera's, I mean, he's already going to be fired at the end of the season. Why not just get a look at Eric Bieniemy and see what he can do?
While we're on the subject of coaches, by the way, you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, and we're chatting with Derek Tate. He is a fantasy football analyst for ProFootballNetwork.com. Who's got a better chance to be there next year, Mike Tomlin or Bill Belichick?
Oh, Mike Tomlin. Don't get me wrong. The fact that we saw Deontay Johnson show terrible effort on a fumble against the Cincinnati Bengals earlier this season, and then the effort from George Pickens, and then him even going to, like, getting defensive with reporters when asked.
I didn't want to get hurt.
What? Yeah, I don't. Come on, man. You don't want to get hurt.
Wrong sport.
That's why you didn't get effort. Like, come on, dude. Own that stuff. And, like, then trying to, like, challenge the validity of reporters saying, oh, you didn't play, you don't understand football, or whatever he was trying to imply. That's complete hot garbage. You didn't give effort, you got called out on it, and you got defensive with a terrible BS excuse. So get out of here with that. I get it. I'm sitting here slamming the effort, but Mike Tomlin's response to it was poignant and perfect. I expect if this offense can get right, Tomlin had a lot of success earlier this season and had the Steelers playing inspired football, which got them into the AFC playoff picture, even though they didn't look like a very good football team in a lot of those wins. The same can't be said for Bill Belichick. I know that defense has given us some glimpses that they're still formidable. He's still obviously an incredibly gifted defensive mind, but you forced the chosen one, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, out the door because you didn't want to move forward with Tom Brady. Whatever the dysfunction was in that marriage and the relationship and why it ended between Brady and Belichick, it seemed like Belichick wanted to push Brady out the door. He did, and the results have been pretty below average, if not terrible, this season. So I think Belichick has a better chance of being fired and let go this offseason than Mike Tomlin.
What about for the Saints? Should they move on from Derek Carr with that deal that they just gave him, or should head coach Dennis Allen go first?
I think Dennis Allen has to go first. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Saints cap situation is terrible, and I'm by no means am I a cap expert, but they have one of the worst book situations financially in the NFL right there with, like, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would imagine if you've given Derek Carr that contract, that you're probably going to give him another year because you're not going to have high draft capital. You're probably not going to be able to go select a rookie to build with Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara and the rest of the other veterans on that offense. So I think that Dennis Allen is probably the weak link because I still think that they have the best roster in the NFC South, but it seems as if they're underachieving and inconsistent, which to me has to point to the head coach just as much as the quarterback. Quarterback's been really dinged up this year and trying to battle through injuries. That I'll give Derek Carr credit for. So I think it's Allen that gets the hook before Derek Carr.
Yeah, so Derek, who you got in this weekend's game? You got Tua or Dak?
Give me Tua. The Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, like on defense, run man coverage at one of the highest rates in the entire National Football League. And while they do have a lot of talent and they can get after the quarterback, and I do expect that they'll get Tua on a couple of occasions, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle ranked number 1 and number 2 as far as the highest win rate at the wide receiver position against man coverage. I think it's a bad matchup for the Dallas Cowboys, and they've just been terrible on the road. So give me Tua at home over Dak Prescott, fantasy-wise, and I think the Miami Dolphins win that football game.
I like it.
Derek, I wanted to know, is Monday's main event between the Ravens and the 49ers, the final game of the week, that'll be Monday evening right here on ESPN Northwest Florida, is that battle for the MVP?
Yeah, I think that you can get a front runner if Lamar or Brock Purdy comes up with a monster performance. Or Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. McCaffrey's right in that conversation, too. I don't want to, discredit him because he's pretty much first and almost across the board for running back production this season. He's having a fantastic year. And certainly you can dissect, who's the most valuable 49er and yada, yada, yada. But a big performance from one of those three players in a winning effort could certainly push any of them to the front of the line in a season where there's not a clear-cut front runner for the MVP award. So, yeah, I do think that there's a lot on the line, not only with regard to seeding in their respective conferences, but also with MVP implications from that football game.
To piggyback off of that, Derek, if Tyreek Hill goes out this weekend and he has a great game, do you think that boasts well for him and puts him at the top? If, say, Lamar and, Brock Purdy kind of have average games, him coming back from injury, Tyreek Hill, and having a great game, do you think that propels him to the number one spot in the MVP race?
I mean, unless he does something completely bonkers, like we're talking 250 and 3 scores in a winning effort against the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know. Tyreek Hill missing his first game of the season last week kind of pushes his numbers down the board, also pushes his MVP chances down the board. So, no, I don't see, no matter what he does this week, unless it's something historic, him shooting all the way to the top of the MVP race. But he can certainly, with a big game, put himself back in position to, if he finishes strong with, say he rattles off 3 monster games to finish the season, he could certainly still take the MVP with a historic finish. But just this week, I don't think he'll be the Vegas betting favorite to win the MVP no matter what he does this week.
Derek, is it fair to hold the 49ers roster, specifically Christian McCaffrey, but the 49ers roster in general against Brock Purdy in his case for the MVP?
Absolutely not. I've hated that ludicrous narrative that Brock Purdy is just a game manager and all he does is throw checkdowns or screens to Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and they do all the work. Come on. If you actually watch the 49ers play, Brock Purdy is so comfortable and so in command of that offense, but he's playing with so much anticipation when he's throwing into these windows in the short to intermediate part of the field, and in particular on these in-breaking routes across the middle. You see that's where Brandon Ayuk lives on these 10 to 15 yard in cuts, and the ball basically hitting him in the face as he turns his head around out of his break because Purdy is reading the defense, whether it is pre-snap or post-snap, to a T, and playing on script, on time, and playing with so much accuracy in that part of the football field that anybody that tries to just dismiss his production is really irresponsible, in my opinion.
Again, you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're chatting with Derek Tate. Derek, who is your favorite contender to win it all and your favorite underdog to win it all?
Contender, I like the Baltimore Ravens. So,
me too.
What travels, right? When you get to the postseason, what travels?
Defense.
And running the football, right? And those are two things that the Baltimore Ravens do at a very, very high level this season. The loss of Keaton Mitchell certainly hurts, but you can still get it done with Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. And, of course, Lamar Jackson, who is, dynamic as they get as a ball carrier under center. Not to mention Lamar's kind of that trump card. He's really evolved as a pocket passer. Sure, he still makes an occasional mistake or bad decision that make me scratch my head sometimes, but that's every quarterback in the NFL. Lamar has really evolved as a passer. I like the, no pun intended, Isaiah Likely sliding right into the role of Mark Andrews, and we can see how just dynamic this young man is as a pass catcher. But then that defense, though, not only do they do a great job disguising their coverages and bringing different blitz packages and looks, but they're talented on all 3 levels. I love Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame, really coming into his own in his second season. I think that they're the contender that I really like. As far as an underdog, the Detroit Lions.
Ooh.
And maybe that's full-hearted, but the NFC kind of feels like it's wide open right now. The Philadelphia Eagles are in the midst of a 3-game slide. I'm sorry, Caveman Rick, I still believe in them. I still got them going to the Super Bowl, even over the San Francisco 49ers, no matter how well they are playing right now. I just believe in Jalen Hurts. But admittedly, they're not playing their best football right now. The 49ers, a lot of talent, but, in those close games, we're going to find out what Brock Purdy's really made of. Jared Goff has been to the Super Bowl before. And he's been playing at a pretty darn high level. It seems as if the cogs in that offense are really starting to settle into their roles. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, his role is extended. He looks great. Amon-Ra St. Brown is arguably a top 5 receiver in the National Football League. Sam Laporta is a beast. And, by the way, Jameson Williams, that big playability, he seems to be getting more involved on the offense. And the offensive line is among the best units in the league. Yeah, I think the Detroit Lions can make some noise if they get hot. It's their defense that scares me and why I think that they're an underdog heading into the playoffs.
I like that, man. Another team who has a quarterback that's been to a Super Bowl and won before, Cleveland Browns. How about a Lions-Browns Super Bowl?
I mean, we're talking like Joe Flacco capturing the magic of yesteryear. I can see the path to it. I just don't know if they're going to be able to get enough on offense. I mean, I think they ran for fewer than 40 yards against the Chicago Bears. They took a comeback effort against, a team that's going to be vying for the number 1 overall pick. I think the Bears have a better roster than their record probably suggests. But I just don't know, man. Are we going to get that Joe Flacco we've seen in the playoffs in the past? Maybe, but I'm not going to bet on that as far as in the AFC.
Well, Flacco, he's playing for $75,000 a game. I'd be kind of curious to see what that goes up to for a playoff game.
I think $100,000 for a wild card win, $200,000 for a divisional, $500,000 for the AFC Championship, and then a milli for the Super Bowl.
Man, his agent didn't do him right because, this guy's bet on himself before in the past, and that's how come he got the bag when the Ravens won and believe, what was it, like 08, 09 or something like that? It might have been before that a little bit. But I
want to say it was before that.
But, they were a wild card, and he bet on himself, and they won it all, and he got paid. So, there's one guy that can do it.
Hey, Derek.
If I had that type of money riding on a win, I would be nervous every time I drop back. I'd just be throwing check downs. No, I'm kidding, but it's a lot of money to. Obviously for these guys, the type of money they make, it's probably not as much. But boy, oh boy, that type of financial incentive to win playoff games certainly has piqued my. I'm going to be watching the Cleveland Browns a little bit closer now that you kind of laid out those contract stipulation.
Yeah, it's like
heading to the playoffs.
It's like, can I go to college and be a third string quarterback and get paid for my appearances on the bench or something? I'm cool with $500 a year. Whatever you need me to do, I got it. Hey, Derek, thank you so much for giving us some of your time, my friend. We've only got about 3 or 4 minutes left here, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. But hey, thank you so much, and you and yours have a Merry Christmas, and we look forward to chatting with you next year.
Absolutely, guys. You guys have a happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you for having me on. It's been another great year with the Afternoon Underdogs. Love you guys. Talk to you later.
Love you too, brother.
Love you too, man. We'll talk to you next year, Derek.
Later, says the Tater. I really wanted to get into the whole Rashard Mendenhall question. What you going with the all-white team or the all-black team? Well, have you made a roster up? All of that good stuff. I don't know if you've seen any of that. Have you seen that?
Yeah, definitely. But, I didn't know if you would even want to touch on that,
Well, to me, it's funny. Not what Rashard Mendenhall said, but then where it went afterwards when you had Will Compton and Delaney Walker doing a podcast on it. And if you're talking about it in good fun, then I think that it's very interesting. I like some of the parameters that Will brings up, and it is interesting. It would be not something that I would want to see every year, but I think it would be cool to see a one-off game, maybe every 10 years. You know what I mean?
It might be generational kind of a thing.
Yeah, because I think where the all-white team would lack at is going to be in depth, right? And they might get tired pretty quickly.
Typically, maybe in height.
Well, yeah, height, but I mean, it really just depends on the position. Like, obviously, you would think that wide receiver, defensive back, cornerback specifically is going to be, you're going to fall by the wayside there. But then in certain other positions, you can climb your way back. It would be interesting, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. I only bring it up because Kyle Albritton said that Rashard Mendenhall might discredit him. He was talking, I think he was talking about the George Pickens situation. But yeah, man, what game are you looking forward to the most here this weekend in the NFL?
We've already talked about it. I hate to beat a dead horse and say that, Miami Dolphins.
Give me a second. Give me a secondary game then. Give me a game. Give me, all right, Saturday we've only got 2 games and there's not even a choice, right? It's the Bengals and the Steelers are the overwhelming, will be the better game. I think the Bills are going to blow the Chargers out.
Ravens-Niners, we can go there again if you want to do that. I mean, that's like, 2 number 1 teams. It's 2 heavyweights. If you want to see a heavyweight bout, that go 12 rounds, this would probably be the one that you might want to watch. It is like the headlining game, of the week. Last game Monday night after all the
final
holidays.
One, yeah.
So I mean that's it's kind of good for us. I mean, kind of better than some of the other ones that we've seen on the holidays before, especially like on Thanksgivings and whatnot. So big ups to the NFL for actually doing something with the scheduling and making it work pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, how they have it set up for Monday is the Raiders and the Chiefs and the Giants and the Eagles and then the Ravens and the 49ers. And you can make the argument that prior to the season, all 3 of these games are very interesting. Now the Giants and the Eagles might be a little bit more interesting than what it would have been 4 weeks ago because of the emergence of Tommy DeVito. And then obviously the Raiders and the Chiefs. I guess you can never really count on that game. And that's going to do it for us here on the Afternoon Underdogs this week. We will be back
next year.
Yeah, next year. All right, Inside Drive will be live with you on Wednesday and Thursday at 1 or at 11
Merry Christmas, y'all.
a.m. Just remember the reason for the season is the birth of Jesus Christ. Jesus loves you, and so do I. Y'all have a great afternoon. Georgia Tech and UCF is coming up next. Merry Christmas.
Home for college football. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Bowl season kicks off the holidays tonight. It's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets versus the University of Central Florida Knights in the Gasparilla Bowl.
That ball is caught. Touchdown, Georgia Tech.
Coverage starts at 5:30. Then, Saturday, coverage starts at 11 for the Birmingham Bowl as the Troy Trojans take on the Duke Blue Devils. Right here on your home for college bowl games on the Gulf Coast, ESPN Northwest Florida.